Today's lesson is on the subjunctive mood in Spanish. Up until this point, you have been working with the indicative mood, so you learned present, preterite, imperfect, and future tense of the indicative. In Spanish 3, we introduced the subjunctive mood, so you will also have present, past, and future in this mood. And so we're going to begin with just regular verbs for the present subjunctive as an introduction to this topic. The subjunctive is used mainly when you have two different subjects in a sentence. So you will have somebody and something that's called the main clause, and then somebody in the subordinate clause, so two different subjects. You use the subjunctive to say that someone wants, suggests, or demands that someone else do something. So in the example that you see here, you have I want you to breathe slowly. You have somebody in the main clause, I want, or I, and somebody in the subordinate clause, you. I want you to breathe slowly. A sentence that includes the subjunctive form has always the two parts, and they are always connected by the word que in Spanish. So if you look at the translation, quiero que respires lentamente. This is I want, and this is the subjunctive of respirar, which means to breathe, and this is conjugated in the do form. So this is the do ending for the subjunctive present tense. Other uses of the subjunctive include suggestions of a more general nature, so where you don't really have a subject. Remember we talked about the impersonal say, when you just say people or somebody does something. This is the same idea. When you're saying it's necessary or it's good, it's important, you don't really have a subject there, but it will act in the same way using the subjunctive. So the general expression will be in the main clause, and then the subordinate clause will contain the subjunctive in it. So let's look at this example here. It's important for young people to eat well. So the general expression es importante, that's in your main clause. Then you have que to join the two clauses right here. And then los jóvenes, young people, coman bien. This is the subjunctive for ellos, for the young people, in the present tense. Okay, so how do you form the subjunctive? We usually teach the subjunctive right after we teach commands, because the construction of it is very similar. If you've already noticed, it uses opposite vowels. It also uses the stem of the present tense yo form, just like all the plural commands, the formal commands, and the negative tu commands did. So to form the subjunctive, you're going to drop the o from the yo form of the present tense. And then you're going to replace that o with the subjunctive ending. Remember that verbs ending with car, gar, and zar are going to have a spell change, because if you follow those with an e, you're going to have a change in pronunciation or a change in the sound of the letters. So they will require a spell change to keep that sound original. To conjugate in the subjunctive, you're going to use opposite vowels. So for AR verbs, your ending are e, es, hemos, es, en. ER and IR verbs, again, opposite vowels, so your endings will be a, as, a, amos, ais, an. After you're done taking these notes, I would like you to take a look at the following examples and construction of the subjunctive. You won't have to write these down, so don't write them down on your notes. I just want you to see how they are formed. Our first example here is an AR verb, the verb caminar. We begin with the yo form, which is camino. Then you drop the O, and that gives you your stem, C-A-M-I-N, or camin. And then you go and add your subjunctive endings. So your conjugation of caminar would be yo camine, tú camines, usted, él or ella camine, nosotros caminemos, ustedes, ellos or ellas caminen. Okay, now we have an example of an ER verb, and this also happens to be an irregular yo verb, and this is where it's important to remember to always start with the yo form. So the yo form of poner is pongo. Go through and drop the O, so your stem becomes P-O-N-G. Then you go and add your ER subjunctive endings. In this case, the opposite vowel would be A, so the yo form is ponga. Yo ponga, tú pongas, usted, él, ella ponga, nosotros pongamos, ustedes, ellos, and ellas pongan. Okay, one final example. This is the IR set of verbs. This one is also an irregular yo form, salir. The yo is salgo, drop the O, and that gives you your stem, S-A-L-G. Then you go through and add your subjunctive endings for IR verbs. Again, opposite vowel would be A for IR verbs. So yo salga, tú salgas, usted, él, ella salga, nosotros salgamos, ustedes, ellos, and ellas salgan. Okay, this concludes our preliminary lesson on subjunctive present tense. I'm going to let you go ahead and move on to your next station for some practice conjugating with these.